blast me to the mortal realms. It's time for the Mad Merlins review of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer, issue 45, by Hachette Partworks and Warhammer. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer video review. And today we are on issue 45 and we get ourselves the Moon Clan Fanatics. Yay. These guys are crazy. They swing around with giant balls and chains. And yeah, a pretty cool goblin unit. We've had one already with the Zarbag's Git set. But this one is the full multi-part set. We get 5 miniatures with a little extra guy that you can just see down there, who's a rather nice comical addition to the unit. So, before we dive into the issue, don't forget to, of course, like this video if you are enjoying the content. And if you are, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. We are getting closer and closer to 500 every day. And yeah, I'm going to try and plan something very special for that 500 subscribers. Finally then, don't forget there's all the links in the video description, including the Mad Merlins Patreon, where you will now be getting regular updates and videos exclusively for you there. So without further ado then, let's dive into issue 45 and we'll have a look at these Loonsmasha Fanatics. So, we've got our frame of Fanatics. We'll have a closer look at that in just a sec. We got 5 32mm bases, plus a 25mm for our little grot who's got a little too much, who's spun a little too much. And then we have our issue, so we get Loonsmasha Fanatics. We learn about the Armies of Shyish, the hordes of undead there. And we, of course, have a new battle plan as well. So, first off then, we'll take a look at our frame, and then we'll go through the issue. So, here we have our frame then. So, this builds up 6 models, technically. We get 5 guys who are slinging around these massive balls and chains with lots of spikes. And we've got a poor little grot here who has spun way too much and is bringing up the mushrooms he had for dinner. Not very nice. Poor little guy. But yeah, really fun, characterful little unit. Loads of nice little details. We've got loads of mushrooms and stuff for the basing detail. And yeah, very faithful update to the classic metal Fanatics that used to be the bane of all of my games against orcs and goblins back in the days of Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah, flip over, just check the other side. You got a Squig skeleton, so okay, apparently Squigs have skeletons. I thought they were just a fungus. But rather cool, nice little detail there. And yeah, really looking nice. So we'll have a look at the instructions for those in a minute. But first, let's take a look at our latest issue. So here we have issue 45, and straight up at the front there we got a roving horde of undead being led by a necromancer. We see a classic corpse cart in the background and some carrion crows picking off the odd bit of flesh for a little snack. Charming. But such is life in Shyish. So then, our full contents for the issue. So we have background on the Aether War, a story all about the Gathering, the fold out for the Armies of Shyish. We got our second collect article for the Loonsmasha Fanatics. Our first one, of course, was with Zarbag's Gits. Building and painting guides, order tactics, and we got a brand new battle, the Fungal Grotto. Kicking things off then, we have a look at the Aether War. So, after the slaying of the Lode Griffin, the skies above the Griffin's Eyrie were overrun by the forces of Tzeentch. During the Aether War, the Caradron overlords explored these skies, finding more than they bargained for. So, this was one of the big battle boxes that came out in the second edition of Age of Sigmar. It saw the forces of Tzeentch facing off against Caradron overlords. So we had a Magister on Disc of Tzeentch here, which is a fantastic, lovely looking model. Humanoid features, but he's also got the avian legs and the very Tzeentchian armor even. And yeah, fantastic looking model. Then for our Caradron overlords, we had an Engine Master with dirigible suit. So pretty cool. He's got loads of different little small guns, claws, the sword, and a big blunderbuss there. Pretty cool character, nonetheless. And we got some of the notable events. So the Eye of Storm, Caradron ships facing off against Screamers of Tzeentch. Staking a claim, so a lot of Zangors on discs facing off against the dirigible suit guys there. And finally then a race against time where all the forces came together and clashed in one final ultimate battle. Moving on then, we've got a new story featuring the featuring a Loon boss facing off against the Sylvaneth in the Gathering. A good Loon boss is always on the lookout for a new enemy for their army to fight. A really good Loon boss remembers that squished grots make for a terrible army. So it's always a careful balancing act to make sure the Horde has enough fighting to keep them entertained, but not so much that they can't overwhelm their enemies with superior numbers. So yeah, Claggett Blacktongue is our Loon boss here. And yeah, he's facing off against the Sylvaneth with daring attacks. We've got Squigs here, Giant K-Squig, Loon boss there. And it's actually quite a fairly long story. We've got a couple of pages of awesome Goblin versus Elf action here. So a rather little fun story. Yeah, and to be continued, so we aren't done yet. There's about to be more to come in a future issue, which is pretty cool. Moving on then, we have our full battle record for the Gloomspite Gits. And the Loonsmasha Fanatics here. So, Loonsmasha Fanatics are hurricanes of green flesh and iron. Loonsmashers hide among other Gloomspite Gits and drink themselves loopy on fungal brews. When enemies come near, the Fanatics are released into the fray to inflict unexpected and lethal violence on the unfortunate foes. So yeah, they sling around these giant ball and chains, drink fungal brews, and generally go a bit backcrap crazy. So we got space to record the unit's name and some of their great deeds, and also their unit traits there as well. Moving on then, we got our build guide for our Loonsmasha Fanatics. So we got the ball and chains. Each one's two different halves that go together, with the exception of part 32. We got random base detail, so you can put any ball and chain piece on any of the different grot models. We even have a couple of head options, so you can have with a hood or without a hood, whichever you prefer. And yeah, we just build them up. So very few components, which is nice. With the exception of this guy here, he's got quite a bit of a billowing cape as he flies through the air with his ball and chain. Yeah, really cool models, very dynamic. Just be careful, they could be a little delicate on the chain pieces, so just be careful you don't snap them in games. But yeah. And finally, we got our little grot who is bringing up his fungal brew. He won't be taking part in battles, but he's just a fun little extra to have with the unit, and yeah, nice little paint project. Speaking of painting then, we have our paint guide for the Loonsmasha Fanatics, and with all our other grots we are starting with Avalon Black, picking out the green flesh of Auric Flesh, metal details of Leadbelcher and Moonlord Brass, before picking out any ropes and fungus with Wraithbone, using Corn Red to pick out small pouches along the waists of our Fanatics, and Mephiston Red to pick out the caps of the mushrooms. We've then got Corax White for any rocks, as well as certain other smaller mushrooms to pick out to differentiate a few. Avalanche Sunset to pick out any moon symbols, Retributor Armor for any metallic gold symbols, as well as some bangles there. Cassiogen Flesh for the wood. Cantor Blue for the bottles on their waists. Baylor Brown for our Puddle of Sick from the poor little grot. Then we're using Agrex Earthshade to shade the Runelord Brass and Mephiston Red details, Griffhound Orange to shade the Vomit, Nuln Oil to shade the metal and the rock, as well as the dark red cloth, as well as the wood and the bottle. Then finally, Reichen Flesh Shade is used for the gold and yellow details, and Griff Charger Grey is used to pick out some of the smaller different mushrooms, just to help differentiate some of them on bases. Finally, then, a Phonian Camo Shade for skin and Skeleton Horde for any rope details. So we were using quite a lot of shades and contrasts now to bring out colours on our models. So that's pretty cool. And when you're done, they should look something like this. So it gives us a pretty good looking unit, I think. So yeah. Moving on, we'll take a look at some tactics. So we got the tactic page here for the Lord Aquila. So he's maneuverable, he's versatile, but he is a priority target. So you want to make sure you protect him as best you can. But yeah, he's a pretty good character to lead your forces. And then we've also got the Knightjudicator here as well. So good at ranged attacks, has the Griffhounds for a bodyguard sort of unit. But he's fragile if he gets bogged down in combat. Low wounds characteristics don't help as well, and pretty poor save on the Griffhounds. But he's a disruptor, so he can really harass the enemy, and those Griffhounds can dart out and tie up a unit in combat. Moving on then, we've got a scout mission with the Fungal Grotto. So for the Alliance of Order, we have the Arc Revenant, 5 Tree Revenants, the Spirit of Durfu. Then we get to add either 4 Praetors or 5 Vigilors, and either 6 Griffhounds and 5 Vindictors. For the Alliance of Destruction, our primary army list is the Loon Boss Zarbag and his Gits, 20 Shooters and our new Fanatics. Then we get to add either the Marshcrawler Slogoff or Beast Skewer Killbow, and either the Man Skewer Bolt Boys or the Hobgrot Slitters. We've got another mission where we are using all 3 mats. We have 2 objectives. The Destruction have a central deployment area, and our Order forces are split on each end. So 5 battle rounds, scoring 1 point for controlling a single objective, another point for 2 objectives, and another point if we control more than the opponent. Special rule, Fortifying Fungus. So while they are contesting an objective, Sylvaneth and Gloomspite Gits models have a 6+ ward save, so that's pretty cool. Excuse me. But yeah, fun little mission. Should be quite fun. Then we got our usual playthrough highlights from Ian and Eve as they play through their game. We see we've got the Loonsmasha Fanatics charging out of the shooters, heading straight towards the Spirit of Durfu. We've got the Vigilors taking out the Man Skewer Bolt Boys. and the Griffhounds and Vigilors teaming up against Zarbag and his Gits there. And finally, the shooters are hitting off and taking down the Sylvaneth Tree Revenants there. So before we look into the future, let's take a look at the Armies of Shyish. So our latest fold out, focusing on the different armies of the different realms, focuses on Shyish. In Shyish, death is no respite from battle. Those who have died already gather in great armies to fight the living, or alongside them. It is a grim and somber place where wars are waged over bones, souls, and the eternal fates of countless mortals. One of the big armies then is the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, a pretty new army. We see their leader there, I can't remember his name, Catacross, I think, or something similar. Yeah, we got the Mortrek Guard, we got the Knights as well. And yeah, so one of the newer undead armies serving the Gash. My personal favourite of the undead armies, the Flesh Eater Courts there. We have a notable mention here of the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, the black and gold clad Stormcast who live in Shyish and are often facing off against rather deadly enemies and are the forefront in the combat against the Gash. Then we have a fold out focusing on the Realm of Death. So we got all the different land masses and very notable areas within those. Some battle sites like Von Carstein's Treachery there. The city of Lethis, where our Stormcast guys reside. We even have Shadespire, the Shyish Nadir, which is a vortex where souls are drained into, and the Gothazar there as well, named after the Gothazar Harvesters, part of the, yeah, Catch Cross, I was right, part of the, I forgot their name already, Ossiarch Bone Reapers army. So other factions, we have the Unmade, who are rather mutilating sort of chaos cultists. They will cut their arms off and replace them with giant hooked limbs. This one here is even cut the legs off and replace them with giant spiked blades. And yeah, they're pretty crazy guys. And finally then, we got the Night Haunts, another pretty new army raised during the Soul Wars. They were a pretty cool force. Of course, they are also part of the previous part works that we had, focusing on Mortal Realms. Yeah, they were great art, great models. Loved collecting and painting them. But yeah, they're not everyone's favourite army. So, moving on then, let's take a look at our next two issues. So, 46 brings us the Sylvaneth Brat Witch. Fantastic little character, and as I mentioned in the last video, I really love the paint job they've done for the Biter Grub. I'm definitely going to be following pretty close to the paint scheme. We also have information about the Night Haunt and Science and Sorcery. In issue 47 then, we get a brand new piece of terrain, the brilliant Nexus Siphon. We learn about the Disciples of Tzeentch, and we have a page focusing on the battlefields of Shimon. So there we have it. That was issue 45 of Stormbringer. And what did I think? Well, really cool issue. Nice new story to start. That is started in this issue. Pretty cool paint guide. Gets them up to a really good gaming standard. Just missing, of course, the base detail, which will be done in a future issue. Plenty of nice background. A really nice looking mission. I might have to proxy some models and perhaps play it out myself. But yeah, other than that, we've just had some pretty cool, crazy little grots to add to our destruction army. So yeah, a pretty good issue. Yeah, I think 5 out of 5, pretty good issue. The only sad thing is I'm not going to get around to building and painting these guys as they're going to my friend Marcio. But as I've said before, I do have a kind of a hatred for these guys. They have been the bane of many a glorious charge into a goblin horde. Yeah, I don't have a very strong connection with these guys at all. But yeah, they're pretty cool nonetheless. So, that's pretty much everything. Let me know what you thought of the issue down below. Have you had any luck using the Fanatics yourself, or are you like me and have you had plenty of bad experience with them? Yeah, drop a comment down below. We'll have a good conversation. And until next time, thank you all very much for watching, and stay safe and keep hobbying. So, goodbye.